A few months ago, after climbing Kilimanjaro, Alicia joined me on episode 22 of the HikeStrong podcast titled 23 Stairs, a Treadmill, and 61,350 feet. She trained on stairs behind a building, spent hours on a treadmill with a pack on her back, and proved to herself that she could do something extraordinary. And at the end of that episode, she basically said she never wanted to climb stairs again. So naturally, once you know Alicia's personality, it's no surprise she called me to train again, but this time for the Inca Trail. So today's conversation is a true compare and contrast. Kilimanjaro versus the Inca Trail. Long altitude grind versus steep stone steps. Summit night at 19,341 feet versus Dead Woman's Pass at 14,000 feet. Different continents, different guide cultures, different terrain, same woman. Okay, we're going to talk about itinerary differences. What changed physically, what changed mentally, what gear carried over, and how the guide experience differed. So if you've ever wondered which trek is right for you, or if you've ever said, I'm not athletic enough for something like that, this episode is for you. My name is Marcus Shapiro. I am a hiking strength and conditioning coach. Thanks for listening. Alicia, welcome to the HikeStrong Podcast for a second time.
Thanks, Marcus.
Absolutely. What'd you think about that intro? Cool? You're good?
Very cool. It's hard to believe it's me.
Okay. We're just going to go right into it. Okay. You finished Kilimanjaro and you said you never wanted to climb stairs again. So why did you call me to train for the Inca Trail?
And you said, I don't believe you. You'll be back. And I don't know. I think that there are two parts to it, right? There's this like feeling of doing something adventuresome. And I really like that. And then also, well, maybe three parts. Also this sense of personal accomplishment. And then also the doing something by myself, for myself entirely.
Okay. All right. And was there a moment after Kilimanjaro when you thought that was enough? You proved to yourself you can handle adversity and then that was it?
Well, there was a bit of recovery and then, but I kind of started thinking about it pretty soon after. I mean, you and I debriefed, I don't know, was it like 2 weeks after? And I said, I'm just not like never again. And so I think probably a couple months after I was like, I wonder what I'll do next September, you know?
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. Okay. So let's take time to do an itinerary comparison between a Kilimanjaro itinerary on the Limosha route and a classic Inca Trail adventure. Okay. So you can just sit back and relax, Alicia. I'm going to go through it, but I will have you comment at certain points. Okay. So Kilimanjaro, 8 days of trekking, Inca Trail, 4 days of trekking. Okay. So we're talking 50% less days on the Inca Trail. Now, the Kilimanjaro itinerary distance, it's 37 miles total. On the Inca Trail itinerary, it's 28 miles total. So while it's only 50% less days, okay, it's only 25% less distance. Therefore, and my point is the distance is actually more challenging on this itinerary, relative percentage-wise. All right, Kilimanjaro elevation gain, 15,441 feet. Inca Trail elevation gain, 7,200 feet. So 50% less. Okay, so that's equal amount of elevation gain relative to the number of trekking days. Now, the classic Inca Trail begins at about 8,500 feet. But by day 2, you reach the highest point called Dead Woman's Pass at about 14,000 feet. And by day 4, you end the journey to the Sun Gate, which is 9,000 feet, and then to Machu Picchu at about 8,000 feet. And then I believe you take transportation down. Is that correct, Alicia?
Yeah, you go into Machu Picchu before it kind of opens, and then you tour Machu Picchu, and then you take a bus down to the town.
Got it. Okay. So the Kilimanjaro Limosha route begins at 7,000 feet And by day 3, you're at almost 14,000 feet. And then on day 4, you hike up to 15,000, where they say you walk high and sleep low. So you come back down to about 13,000 feet and you sleep. So that helps with acclimatization. And to also help with acclimatization, you'll spend time between 12,000 feet and 16,000 feet from about day 3 to day 6. And then in day 7, you push for the summit, known as Uruhu Peak, where you climb almost 4,000 feet to the highest point on the African continent at 19,341 feet. So we'll do a little comparison, and then Alicia, you can jump in and, share your comments. So on Kilimanjaro, you climb 4,000 feet on summit day. On Inca Trail, you also climb about 4,000 feet. So anyway, the descent is much harder on Kilimanjaro. On day 7, you've got 6,711 feet that you're going to descend. And on day 8, you descend another 7,300 feet. On Inca Trail, you descend about 5,000 feet on day 3. Another comparison. Kilimanjaro has significantly higher altitude component at 19,000 feet. Inca Trail goes up to 15,000 feet. And then one more comparison. Inca Trail initially has a slightly more challenging acclimatization issue just at the beginning of the trek, going from 8,500 to 14,000 in 2 days. Whereas Kilimanjaro gives you 3 days to get to 14,000 feet. So I'm going to stop there, Alicia. What are your thoughts on any of that?
So, good data, a lot more than I remember. I think, I think the thing for Kilimanjaro that was so really challenging was just the altitude and breathing. And I tend not to get altitude sickness. That's not to say that next time I go on a hike, I'm not going to get it. You just never know. But that really is what just took it out of me and took it out of all of us. I mean, just took it out of us. Like, we were exhausted at 1 in the afternoon. Like, we stopped climbing, at 1 o'clock a lot of times and had lunch and then a nap and then whatever, and then, and the Inca Trail is just, what they call the summit day when you go up to 13, whatever, 14. I did feel a little nauseous at one point, which could have been altitude or I just needed a snack. So, and I think the thing, like really, because that happens to me. So, the thing that's really different about the Inca Trail is the stairs. And I had a friend say to me, there's just so many stairs. And I was like, oh, I mean, I hadn't really thought about that. So for Kilimanjaro, I mean, the hiking was very challenging. And as you know, I have a lot more trouble sort of going down. And Kilimanjaro, you're going up and down all the time, just up and down the whole climb. But the thing that was really challenging, I mean, it was hard, but this unrelenting rocky paths and stairs where you never felt like you had sure footing was hard. I shouldn't say never, but in a lot of parts. So, and that's really mentally very challenging.
Okay. If someone is choosing between Kilimanjaro and the Inca Trail, what are they underestimating about each?
Well, Kilimanjaro, it's just how the altitude is going to affect you. And parts of the climb were hard, and of course it was it was a year and a half ago, and it's like childbirth, like I've forgotten it. And I know there was like a day of rock climbing for me that it was physically hard, but I'm not afraid of that. And some people in our group were very afraid, and there were days where it was really hard to get down some parts and I was really slow. And in the Inca Trail, it really just is the stairs. They're irregular. It rained the whole time for me. So that was a challenge. And then even the rocky paths are uneven because, it's old. And so it's not So that was really, for me mentally, like there was never a mental break, if that makes sense,
Yeah, on Kilimanjaro.
on Inca Trail.
Oh, on Inca Trail.
Yeah.
Okay, so go back through that. So contrast that
Okay.
again.
So Kilimanjaro, there was all different kinds of terrain, but there were times when you were like, I mean, there were days that were bad, that you were just like, this is a really sucky day. But you definitely had times where you're like on a path, or it feels like you can do it. That is independent of what the altitude is and the thin air is doing to you, which is what was the hardest part, like just catching your breath. From a physical standpoint, there was a lot of variation in terrain that you could sort of get a break. On the Inca Trail, for me, because it was raining and I was very conscious of not falling, I had done 2 10-mile hikes as part of my training, and on both of them I was yik-yakking with my friends, and I like yard sailed, completely wiped out. So I thought to myself, almost the whole trail has a precipice on one side, and I thought I better pay attention because I'm going to go right over the edge. So it was unrelenting. I mean, there were some parts, but that was the thing that was such a challenge, just like the stairs and the stairs and the stairs. And do you get a rhythm? No, because they're uneven, and sometimes it's easier to go on the tiny little path next to the stairs than it is to actually do the stairs. And so you're always calculating.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. That's interesting.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked much about the descent. I'm assuming Kili was more challenging, but if you want to talk about the two different descents, just kind of contrast.
They're so different, and really Kilimanjaro is just harder. It's just harder because there's so many more variables, and that I struggled on the descent, on that right off the mountain when we got into the scree, and I just couldn't. I was exhausted, and because you've summited and you're coming down, I was exhausted, and I had help down. Two guides grabbed me, and we sort of scurried down, and I was very grateful for that. And it was something I had not wanted to do, but I just was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to wipe out, and a lot of people do it. So I still had to go down, but they kept me sort of balanced. And then the descent on the Inca Trail is fine. It's really a trail. So there are parts that you just have to be careful of your footing, but it's not any different than Kili with rocks and, some bridges. And I mean, the thing that's amazing about the Inca Trail is that everybody talks about Machu Picchu. You are coming across Mayan Inca ruins all the time. And it's amazing.
Okay, that's unique, of course.
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor this section. We had a lot of fun questions to get to. Do you feel like comparing and contrasting like Summit Night versus Dead Women's Pass? I know that Summit Night is harder, but so this isn't necessarily a compare and contrast challenging, but just, I don't know, the time of day, if you can remember, and maybe your mental state, as you were approaching this, the high points of both. Speak to anything you want.
Yeah, so Inca Trail, that was the day that I felt nauseous, and my guide actually took my pack. And there's just one particular staircase that I think where it all came together, and I was like, oh God, I want to quit. Like, that's a lot. It's just a lot of wet, stony stairs. And then when we summited, it was cold, but not cold really because you were at 12,000 feet, cold just because we had bad weather. So, in both, I was kind of like, will I ever get there and will I make it? But the Kilimanjaro Summit Night is a whole other animal just because it's really cold. I mean, it's really, really, my bladder froze immediately, and my fingers and toes were numb, and we had good weather. So they're just different. it's different. I mean, you can just say, yeah, Kilimanjaro is harder, but Inca Trail is just a different set of challenges. So it's fun that way.
Yeah. On Kilimanjaro, your summit mantra was basically, this really sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the voice in your head on the hardest day of the Inca Trail?
Well, I had decided that I needed to clear my head, and I remember I'm alone, so I mean, with my guide, but so I'm not as conscious of like, am I keeping up? Am I holding people up? What's next? What do we have to do? Who's doing what? It was just me and my feet and my poles. And I was very conscious of getting a rhythm for that so that I wouldn't fall. And it was incredible for my brain, because you think about all the times where just like the phone's going off and my kids are calling and the dog's barking and I have 87 emails and I had none of that. And there were no inputs except what was ahead of me.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it was really, I really loved doing it alone for that reason.
It's not uncommon for people to speak of these adventures being disconnected.
Yeah.
What did Kilimanjaro teach you that directly helped you on the Inca Trail?
Just what I can do and knowing that I could do it. And, in the back of my head, it was funny because like my guide would be like, it's really cold at night. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd be like, oh, this is not cold at all. So, it was almost like it helped me because I was like, well, I did that and that was cold, and it wasn't, I was very concerned about these 7 mile and 9 mile days, right? Because Kilimanjaro, you don't do that. And I thought, can I do it? And when we got to camp much later. So there wasn't like a rest time or, you'd sort of gather yourself, shower, and then have a little snack and then have dinner. But I wasn't as tired at night. I just wasn't as spent, and I was sort of like ready to go the next morning.
Okay, so next I want to contrast your Kilimanjaro versus Inca Trail training numbers. So I went through both tracking charts, extracted the distance and elevation gain numbers, and here we go. Okay. So total training distance. Now, I should a caveat here. You did your tracking chart for Kili was 12 weeks, and your tracking chart for Inca Trail was 9 weeks. But still, okay. So Kilimanjaro, you did a total of 170 miles, or you trained a total of 170 miles. It was less on the Inca Trail. You did 135 miles. Okay. Now but interestingly, your average weekly training distance for Kilimanjaro was 14.2, but it was higher on the Inca Trail. So your average was higher weekly, but the total, yes, your average.
Did that include stairs?
No, I don't count of anything vertical.
Doesn't
only
count.
Horizontal, right?
That makes sense from what I was doing.
Yeah. So you averaged 15 miles. Okay. Yeah. Your total training elevation gain for Kilimanjaro was 61,350 feet. Inca Trail was 51,935 feet. Now, your average weekly elevation gain. So Kilimanjaro was 5,112, and it was higher on Inca Trail at 5,771. And then the last comparison is the diversification strategy for elevation gain. So for Kilimanjaro, you did 56% of your elevation gain on treadmill. You did 49% on treadmill for Inca Trail. Kilimanjaro, you did 20% on stairs, but you did a whopping 38% of your elevation gain on stairs for the Inca Trail. And then for your hikes and walks, Kilimanjaro, you did 24%, and hikes and walks for Inca Trail, you did 13%.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on any of that?
I was petrified of the stairs on the Inca Trail. So that just explains that, right? I just was very concerned about being able to do that.
Okay. So comparing the Kilimanjaro plan to the Inca Trail plan, what felt different to you? So not just the numbers and what's on paper, but like in your body. Because now this is your second time. So
Right. So I think I was more aware of my limits and like remember when I did Kili, I like kind of not blew my knees out, but I hurt my knees and then I had to take 2 weeks off because I put the pack on and they were hurting and then I didn't take the pack off, all these things. I was just much more sensitive to what my body was telling me. And sometimes I'd do stairs and I had some made up goal and then I would just kind of get lightheaded or poop out or it was too hot, and so I'd be like, okay, not today. But I was much more focused on stairs.
Okay.
And in fact, the stairs that I was training on Kili for were under repair. So I was training on the Inca Trail. I was going up 14 stairs in my house, going across the landing and going up 13 stairs in the attic and then back down. It was so bad.
Yeah. Well, that's annoying.
Yeah.
But you did it. And that's just a testament to your two things. One, just you're disciplined. And two, you just learned a lot from your first one. You just knew what you could tolerate. So here's a follow-up question to that. Did the training feel easier the second time, or did you just tolerate discomfort better, or do you have a different observation about it?
I think I was just in a better headspace. And I don't know that I felt it was easier. I think I probably did. I think I just understood my body more too.
Okay. But if someone says, I'll just hike to get ready, what would you tell them?
Well, I think that's super important, right? And I can't get elevation near me that's of any consequence. So I think that makes sense. I do feel that stairs piece is really a great way to get focused training and strength. And honestly, for the Inca Trail, it's literally stairs. So, I think that's a really important part of it.
Okay. All right, let's kind of shift mindset here.
Okay.
If someone wants scenery, which do they pick? If they want transformation, which do they pick?
Scenery, definitely Inca Trail. Transformation, Kilimanjaro. You mean like a spiritual, or just yeah. I mean, it just feels like a huge accomplishment, And I will say, when I was doing the Inca Trail, I was solo in with my porters and everything, but there were a few other groups, most of them young people. And I don't think they found it that challenging. I mean, I was slower because I was much more deliberate. But I think they experienced it differently than I did. I'm in my 60s, so.
Okay, well, next good question. If someone listening is 50 or 60 and thinks they're too late to do something like this, what would you tell them?
Absolutely can do it. I mean, I'd never done anything like either of them, and I don't have the opportunity to do real hikes. It's not like I'm in Colorado. And I just got it done. And it's really special experience, both.
So you once said, I'm not athletic. Do you still believe that? Do you still think of yourself that way?
Well, most of the time I'm fit, but I'm a spaz. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I trip. Like, it's not good. So I stink at tennis, I'm okay at pickleball. I don't even enjoy it. I'm much happier reading a book on the beach. So, yeah, I don't people think that's crazy, right? Because I do these crazy things, but I don't consider myself like an athlete.
Okay. So what gear worked on both Kilimanjaro and the Inca Trail?
I love my boots. Like, love my boots. When I put my hiking boots back on for the Inca Trail, like to start training, I had worn them for a few hikes or whatever. I was like it was like coming home. I was like, oh, this feels so great, you know? And I wore Hokas, which are a little heavier and bulkier, but really have a cushion. And I have an Achilles issue, so I need that. And then, you know, my rain gear, Kilimanjaro, we had fantastic weather, fantastic. And there was no rain gear in the world that was going to keep that rain out. And on the Inca Trail. And in fact, I didn't have a poncho, and we stopped and I bought a poncho, which I put over everything. And it's still, I was soaking wet, just soaking wet. So that was a challenge. And I think people would find that on Kilimanjaro too, even with, I mean, I had Gore-Tex and everything. It just gets in everywhere. I love my pack, you know. I like having a bladder in the back of the pack. I feel like I've settled into my gear. Like what works.
Okay, so did you carry the same day pack?
Same day pack, same hiking pants, because that's like the pockets, I know. You know, it takes a while, and you helped me with this when I was training for Kili, to have like a system. Like, where's my water valve? And I like to have a bandana so I can wipe my face, and, you know, if there's dust or whatever, and where's that? And where does the chapstick go, and your phone, so you can just whip it out and take pictures. So once you get that system, which takes a while, like, where have I put things? It sort of worked for me on the Inca Trail because I knew where my stuff was.
Yeah, one thing people can do is wear the pack and the stuff that they're going to have in the pack just in the house around, and just practice. Like, where is this? Where's that? Take the pack on and off, dig through your pack, and then eventually you start to understand it. You don't need to go on a challenging adventure to learn that.
Silly, but if you need to grab something, the idea that you got to take your whole pack off and dig through all the stuff, or instead of saying, oh, it's in that top pocket, can you just grab my sunscreen, you know, or you have a bar in one of the pockets and you're like, I'm just going to take one quick bite so I don't get lightheaded or something. It makes a difference.
All right. Well, what kind of shoes do you have? I mean, you said Hoka. Do you remember the model? Is it like Trail Code or something?
Oh, I don't.
Because you love them. We want to know.
I will let you know, but I don't remember.
Okay, so they're not with you in Florida, are they?
No, they are not. And then I have,
good enough.
Yeah. So.
Okay, and what about your pack? Do you remember?
I have an Osprey, and I think it's 30.
30 liter?
Yeah.
Okay.
It might be 32, which is very roomy, but, you know, with all the rain gear, I found like on Kilimanjaro, it wasn't full, but it was the right size because I had all the extra stuff we never used.
What changed the most from Kili to the Inca Trail? Was it footwear, layering, pack strategy?
Yeah, the layering was a challenge just because of the weather.
And which was harder to dress for, and why?
I think Inca Trail just because of the rain. I'm trying to think of like Kilimanjaro during the day when we were hiking. It felt like I had that figured out. The temperature changes, and it was frigging freezing at night. The minute the sun went down, your teeth were chattering. But like, except for some at night, during the day, it was just a layering situation. You know, you start with more layers, you start taking them off, you put them back on, all the things. But the Inca Trail, it didn't, the temperature didn't change that much. I mean, at night it got a little cooler, but just the rain and just how is that going to work? And, you know, just trying to stay dry, which was impossible. It was impossible. I mean, it was like pouring off your hood.
All right, another shift here. So we're going to talk about guides. So how did the guide culture differ between Kilimanjaro and the Inca Trail? Maybe whether it was leadership style, tone, communication, whatever.
Well, I had fantastic guides for both, and I think it was more maybe personality differences, but both guides were super smart and interesting and careful and caring and focused and attentive and notice things like when you needed a break, or they were just in tune. My Inca Trail guide was also a regular guide. Like, he guided us around Peru a little bit the first 2 days before before I took the hike. And then, so there was, as we approached these ruins, he would tell me all about them, and it was really fascinating and interesting. And so we just had different kind of discussions, like about the brain and the body, and then also about the Incas, and but that was the kind of person he was. But I would say that in both cases the guides were very, very well trained. And I don't know, from a first aid standpoint and just giving care and what they were able to do, I don't know if that's the company or the companies, or I know there are laws that sort of dictate some of that. But I mean, my Peruvian guide, Juan Carlos, at one point took my pack, I think when I was not feeling well that day, for a little bit. And I mean, Peruvians, because they live at altitude, they're not tall, but they're broad. So he's like 5'1", and he's got 2 packs on, and and he's just walking along like it doesn't even bother him, and he turned right around the next day and guided another group up.
Yeah, well, tourism is so important to these destinations.
Yeah.
So there's probably, they could probably come from the same school. I'm not saying they did, but they probably, there is a certain standard of guiding practice that's probably taught all around the world. And it seems like both of them are at the highest level.
Yeah.
Okay, so where did you feel more supported and where did you feel more independent?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah, and,
I never felt unsafe, I'll say that. Never. I mean, besides, like, I'm climbing the Barranco wall, but that, I felt like I was always well cared for.
Okay.
And I think that, everything has different challenges. And the Inca Trail was easy. I mean, I know I said there are a lot of stairs, but it was like a little easier. So I felt more in charge of myself, if that makes sense.
On
the Inca Trail.
Inca Trail.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that totally makes sense. That's why I asked. So a
He
little
was
bit
less
more
worried about me, Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. At what moment did you fully trust your guides on Inca versus Kili? Because I remember Kili, it took you a little bit to accept that help.
Right.
I'm wondering if on Kili you just
help was a matter of pride and ego, whatever. But it was clear to me that with both companies, and to be honest, I picked Summits Africa because, and they're not the cheapest because of their reputation. And the person that helps me plan trips was like, this is the only company you can go with. They're the best trained. They have the kitchen staff is trained, like everything's safe, all those things. So, but on Kilimanjaro, I didn't know, like, I had no confidence. like I stepped onto that trail and I was like, I had never slept in a tent. Like, what the heck is going to happen? You know? And I hope I can trust these guys because I don't know anything. So but everything in both is so new, even on the Inca Trail, because you start out and you're walking past people's homes and, you know, there's like donkeys and llamas and, you know, you're sort of dogs and it's just a different thing. And I think I was fortunate because I felt very well cared for and I trusted my guides and I liked them, you know.
Okay.
It was more of me, less about feeling, like I said, I never felt unsafe because I felt both companies were very good and I was really well cared for. It was more of, do I feel comfortable in what I can do?
Okay. That makes sense. I do want to give a shout out to Thompson Safaris. They're near Thompson Treks. They're just near and dear to my heart because when I first launched in 2009, they gave me, they trusted me and I was just, so looks like now people have two companies to choose from. Okay. So little rapid fire. This will take us no time.
Okay.
You've answered some of these questions, but we're going to do it again.
Okay.
But in rapid fire sequence. So you're just going to answer Kilimanjaro or Inca Trail. Okay.
It's not fair.
Yes, it is.
So different.
No, I know, but I think this will work. More beautiful.
Inca.
More suffering.
Kili.
More bonding.
Oh, Kili.
More technical.
Well, I was alone on the Inca Trail, so yeah.
More technical.
Kilimanjaro.
Which first for beginners?
Inca Trail. Get on the Inca Trail, there's no going back. The only way to get off it, like you go the first day, you get a certain distance, and then if you are going to leave because you don't feel well, you have to go forward. Like for some reason, so they're like putting you on your back and, you know, so just, I don't know why I'm telling you that, but just FYI. Yeah.
So one word for Kilimanjaro.
Epic.
One word for Inca Trail.
Beautiful.
One word for the version of you before Kilimanjaro.
Petrified.
One word for the version of you now.
Oh, now or before Inca Trail?
No, now, like after Kili and Inca.
It's before Inca Trail. It's also petrified. I have much more confidence in what I can do.
Yeah. You know what we didn't cover? Let's do this real quick.
Okay.
We didn't talk about the balance progression and the lunge progression.
Yeah.
You just want to say anything about that?
Yeah. So I think the thing that you and I discussed after Kilimanjaro was that I felt like my balance wasn't good and that my friends, my now friends that were on the hike were much more experienced hikers and they were just better at going down and more confident. And so actually you gave me a bunch of exercises that I did with my trainer and I worked on my balance and I really noticed the difference, you know, as I was training with my balance. Okay. And feeling comfortable. Because, you know, you're stepping on uneven rocks. You don't want to tip over. I mean, it's very uneven in a lot of places.
Yep. Is there anything else? Just check your brain. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you're thinking, you know what, I want to share this or that or nothing?
Well, if someone decides to do either, just be in that moment. Like, there were these young guys, good for them. They were like in their 20s, late 20s, basically running the Inca Trail. And, you know, I guess that's can be an accomplishment, but then you're not looking. and you're not, and then one of them fell. Oh, it was bad. I didn't see it, but he rolled towards the edge when he fell and then happened and was able to throw himself like the other way. But, just be in the moment. Don't turn off your phone. Not that we had cell service, but don't worry about that. And just put all that other stuff away.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
Yeah, go slow. And it was so funny because so I was with these other groups. I was in my own little campsite, and then we'd all start out, and usually Juan Carlos and I would start out earlier, and then all these kids would pass us. And I'm like, okay. And there were two women who were a little younger than me, and they were always coming into camp just after me, but I was the last into camp. And then, the next morning I'd be the first out, they would pass us. And the last day, these guys were, not like running, but like really at a fast clip. And there were young women behind me. And I said, I'll step aside. You guys should go ahead and pass so you can keep up. And they're like, we're not in a race. Like, we want to look, it's beautiful here. We want to look at the birds and the flowers and all the things, and you just miss a lot. I mean, there is this, I just read this thing about a guy who went up Kili and down in one day. But that was his thing, his goal. But for most of us, it's the whole experience. And you don't want to be so focused on your cell signal. I mean, I read on Facebook, someone was like, I want to be able to call my friends from the summit. And they're like, you won't be able to. But so good luck, or bring a satellite phone. But why? Just be in that moment, Yeah,
you're talking about what's called an FKT, or a fastest known time.
Yeah,
it's a culture where people try to do these epic treks, and try to break a record. And so, like you said, that's a thing. That's
right?
Your jam, then that's what you do. Anyway, all right, that was amazing. I'm so excited to have talked to you again. You're always so much fun.
Thanks.
So we're going to stay in touch, of course.
Yes.
And you'll let me know what your next adventure is.
Yeah, shoot me some ideas.
Okay, sounds good. Alicia, enjoy Florida. Good to see you.
Thank you, Marcus. Good to see you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for all your help. You're the best.
My pleasure. Thank you. I'll pay you later for that one. All right, bye.
Bye.
That concludes this episode of the HikeStrong Podcast. I'm committed to keeping all of the episodes for free. All I ask is that you subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends. My goal is to build a vast community of hikers with the confidence to crush any local or global trail. I hope you will join me in this endeavor. So until next time, train, hike, repeat, and as always, I'm here to support you every step of the way. Okay, awesome. That was so much fun. That was great. Thank you.
Okay, those are hard because they're so different. So the comparison is really hard, Marcus.
Yeah, but I think people will garner plenty. It was great. What someone's going to look at when they look at the title of this, they're going to see Kilimanjaro versus Inca Trail. That's going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And people might come away and it might just be obvious. All right, Kili's harder than Inca.
Yeah.
That was clear. But there's more to it. You provided more contrast.
I hope so.
That people can garner from it, because they can just go research this stuff. But now they have perspective. And I think perspective helps for each one of them. And so, I thought it was great. That was fun.
Right. Yeah.
Okie doke.
Okie dokie.